Hi, Joseph. Andrew. Nice
Hey,
to
Andrew.
meet you.
Good to meet you too.
So, please tell me about ReCore. What is ReCore? What's going on? What are you doing? Give me the whole spiel.
Well, what do you know so far? What have you seen?
Let's assume I haven't seen much or anything at all. I saw the trailer, so I kind of have a general idea of it. But for folks at home who have no idea what's ReCore, give us the whole spiel of it.
So the first thing to know about ReCore is it's made by Keiji Inafune-san, the grandfather creative of Mega Man, and the guys at Armature who were the leads of Metroid Prime. So if you can imagine a Mega Man meets Metroid Prime in a modern engine, it's a lot of fun. It's an action platformer or action adventure game. And it's coming out on September 13th for Xbox One and Windows 10.
Awesome, awesome. What is it like building a game with such powerhouses of the industry?
Well, it's a lot of fun. As a creative director in Microsoft Publishing, one of the best parts about my job is I got to work with really great creatives from all around the industry and help out as much as we can. And it's been great. It's a game that's spread across all the world, different time zones, a bunch of teams working on it, but it's been great.
Awesome. So can you go a little detail about the story? What is going on in ReCore?
Yes. Well, I can't tell you too much because I don't want to spoil too many
things. Of
things.
course, we don't want to spoil too much of it.
But I can say that it's the story of Jewel Adams, who's the main character, the woman that you see in the game.
Right.
And Jewel is on this planet called Far Eden. So imagine a world far from Earth, many hundreds of years from now. Something terrible has happened to Earth and mankind, which we won't talk about, and they send Jewel and some other colonists to this planet to get it ready, terraformed for people to live there. Well, Jewel goes into cryosleep, but when she wakes up, she was expecting to see blue skies and water and trees,
as expected.
But there's none of that. It's all desert, and even worse, all the robots that were meant to help have gone crazy. So she wakes up, has to figure out what went wrong, and then get Far Eden back on track to save mankind.
Okay, awesome. Can you go in a little detail about some of the gameplay mechanics? I noticed the grappling hook in the trailer. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So if you saw the announced trailer at last E3, it showed Jewel and Mac, her dog, on a little adventure. They fought some enemy spiders. They ran into this gorilla robot called Duncan. But we didn't show off the traversal, the platforming part of the game. So the game is a mix of third-person action, combat, and traversal, platforming. And it's got a great overworld that you can explore, dungeons you can go down and dig a little deeper.
Lovely.
And a really cool crafting system to upgrade your core bots and make them more effective in combat. So a little bit of traversal, a little bit of platforming, a little bit of shooting and combat.
Okay, awesome. Now, can you go into detail about Far Eden? Tell me about the world. How, what is the ecosystem and the scope of it?
So Far Eden is an Earth-like planet where humans can survive, but it's a very arid desert world. So to get Far Eden habitable for lots of people, they had to set up a bunch of terraforming devices. And Jewel, her job actually, as one of the colonists, is to wake up whenever something goes wrong with one of the terraforming machines. The weird thing is that something definitely goes wrong, but she doesn't wake up and instead sleeps much longer than she ever expected. So, like I said, she was expecting to see a garden world, a paradise, when she woke up, but it's the opposite of that. It's still the same dusty, dry, stormy world. One of the cool parts about ReCore is these sandstorms will blow in every once in a while, and when they do, in certain parts of the world, they'll change the level of the sand. They'll move a bunch of sand up or down, exposing a dungeon you've never seen before, or maybe a dungeon entrance on a cliff that you couldn't get to before. So the weather in certain parts of Far Eden plays a big role on the kinds of adventures you can have.
Interesting. Is it scripted weather, or is it randomly preceded weather?
Well, so we're experimenting with both things. We don't know for sure. Since we're in the polished phase of the game right now, we're trying to tune and figure out what's the best experience. But the main thing is the weather is really a door to adventure. Whenever you see a sandstorm rolling in, you know that
things
a part of the world is going to change.
Awesome. Cool. Can you also tell me about the dungeons? What kind of dungeon crawling are we going to be doing in the game?
So there are a mix of different dungeons. There are dungeons that are more story focused on the mainline story, and there's some dungeons that are just challenge dungeons where you'll be able to go in and either do a traversal time trial or fight in an arena against some of the enemy core bots. So it's a mix of more story focused puzzle dungeons and some things that are much more about the mechanics and speed runs and competing against other people for best times.
Okay, cool. Now, is there a dedicated multiplayer aspect to ReCore?
No, it's just a single player game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Interesting. What are some of the challenges of building just a single player game in a very multiplayer heavy industry now?
Well, what you have to do is make sure you've got a great story and great characters.
Exactly.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's really what a great single-player game is about. It's about the world and the mystery and the characters that you spend time with. And I think that's really one of ReCore's strengths. Jewel's a really interesting character. Her core bots are really charming.
Right.
They're kind of quirky. But really, her adventure is about trying to figure out how to work with these different robots to get stuff done. And that feeds right into combat. So the choices you're making as you play are all about what core bots to use, how to use them most effectively, how to upgrade them, craft new parts for them. So really, the story is about Jewel and her relationship with her core bots, but the gameplay is as well. So there's a nice synergy there.
What is the combat in ReCore? Like, how are you inflicting damage?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Jewel has a primary weapon. She has a rifle that's upgradable. It has 4 different ammo types that are matched color-wise to the enemies she's fighting. So if you imagine, I'll just use an Xbox controller, even though you can play it on PC. If you had your controller in hand, you could use the D-pad to switch through your ammo types. So you want to match red ammo to red enemies. Her second, I guess, attack, I'll say, are her core bots themselves. So you can press the Y button, or you can use your keyboard too, to send them in and attack the enemies. If you use a blue cord friendly robot, you want to attack a blue enemy with them. So it's a very simple system.
Just matching the colors of the enemies to your damage.
It's deceptively simple. The enemies are pretty tricky, and you'll have to mix and match different colors and different techniques as well as you go along.
Awesome. Now, with the robots, are you collecting the robots? Are they coming to you to befriend them?
Yeah.
Or how's that happening?
Well, so unfortunately for you, the vast majority of the robots want to murder you and tear your arms off. But there are a few hardy robots that sort of rebelled without getting too much into the story and giving away secrets.
Understandable.
But there was a conflict between the robots, those who thought humans were good and those who thought humans were evil. So you're slowly befriending the robots who are still on humanity's side. And there are very few of them in the world now. Most of them have been hunted down and eliminated. But Mac and Seth and Duncan, the 3 core bots we're talking about at E3, are part of this friendly faction.
Robots.
Yeah, friendly robots.
Awesome. Yeah. Now, how big is Far Eden? Like, is it like, because we always have to ask about the map size of the games now. So how big is this planet, and how much can we explore of it?
So Far Eden, you can get a pretty good glimpse of this in some of the trailer shots that we've shown this week. It's got a really nice overworld that's broken up into sections, and in each overworld there are, I don't know exactly how many per overworld section, but a good handful of dungeons that are scattered throughout and hidden around. So the basic loop of gameplay as you're exploring the world is find your way around the overworld, figure out where the dungeons are that you want to get into. Some dungeons have power requirements on them, so you'll have to level up yourself or level up your core bots in order to access some of these pieces of content are hidden around the world. Okay,
cool. Can you go into a little detail about the crafting of ReCore? Yeah.
Well, it's a little bit hard to describe without actually looking at the visual, but imagine that it's mainly to do with your core bot friends. Core bots have 2 parts. They have the robotic frame, the thing that looks like a dog or looks like a spider or looks like a gorilla, and then they have the core that's inside the frame. So you can switch your core around from frame to frame. We're showing the blue core in the dog right now, but that blue core could go into the spider, it could go into the ape, and it'll have different effects.
Interesting.
But crafting, you're essentially upgrading the frames, the robotic structures around the cores. You're swapping off arms and legs. Some of it's cosmetic. Most of it has to do with gameplay, giving them different stat bonuses and things like that. So when you're customizing your core bots, you're not just making them look the way you want them to, but you're also helping them fight the way that you want them to fight.
Awesome. Seems like you have a lot of control on how you want to play ReCore.
Yeah, absolutely. So the loop is really go out into the overworld, go into dungeons, beat enemies, get their loot, go back, use it to craft blueprints for your core bots, upgrade them, go back and fight harder enemies.
Cool, awesome. Now, you probably can't answer this question, it's probably secret and whatnot, but can you go into detail about who Jewel is? Like, who is our main character?
Yeah, so Jewel Adams is the daughter of a famous scientist in the world of ReCore, actually a guy named Thomas Adams, who invented the cores themselves. So she's part of a colonial crew of, maybe a couple hundred people that went out to Far Eden as the first wave of colonists, basically the strongest, toughest, bravest people that went out there who could survive in this harsh environment. But with the other colonists, they went into cryosleep, and we're supposed to wake up, like I said, into a paradise, and that didn't happen. So Jewel is a colonist. She's a technician who's thrust into this situation where she has to do much more than she ever expected and get this whole world back on track. In fact, when she wakes up, she realizes she's potentially the last human being on Far Eden.
Tough as nails.
That's always bad when you're the last one.
It's never a good sign.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for talking about
Sure.
your game. It was an absolute pleasure talking with you. Thank you so much for your
bet.
time, man.
Yeah,
thank
hope you get a chance to play it.
I cannot wait to play it, man. Thank you so much
Thanks.
for it. And thank you guys for hanging out with us. We have plenty of more content for you coming our way. We are obviously doing a lot of Microsoft this hour. This is kind of the Microsoft medley, if you will. It's I want to tease for later on in the week, but let's just say this is Microsoft medley.